It just feels like you could drop this ad in like Kansas too, and like any congressional district around the country.
This ad is a classic of the genre of politicians caught on tape saying shit they shouldn't have said. Welcome to another episode of Campaign Experts React, where we break down political ads in media, explain what the people behind them were trying to accomplish, and decide whether or not they did a good job. I'm Dan Pfeiffer, former communications director for Barack Obama. Joining me today is Peter Hamby, writer for Puck News and host of Good Luck America on Snap. Peter Hamby, welcome to this very special edition of Campaign Experts React, where we're talking about the Virginia governor's race. You have ties to Virginia. You have covered Virginia closely. I know you are paying close attention to this race. Help our viewers who are not from Virginia, don't know Virginians, understand why they should care about this race. Or should they care?
Yeah, I mean, that's a question I actually thought about this year. Why should they care? Because Virginia, just to give some historical context, in odd-numbered years, political reporters, strategists like yourself would always look at Virginia as a kind of political test. It's probably the biggest election in this off year after a presidential race. Now, the state has moved a little more democratic at the federal level. Biden beat Trump there by 10 points. So it's not a perfect bellwether anymore, but if you look under the hood, it's really useful. I think it's about like a 2 or 3 point race as we record this between Terry McAuliffe, the former Democratic governor, and Glenn Youngkin, a Republican who presents as Mitt Romney, but has said some very Trumpy things and has taken Trump's endorsement.
Virginia is one of the few states in 2016 where Hillary Clinton outperformed Barack Obama. And it is filled with the sort of voters who shifted in the post-Trump realignment to the Democrats. And the question here will be, do they stay in a world where Trump is not on the ballot or looming over everything like he was in 2017? The first ad we're going to watch is from Republican Glenn Youngkin.
It's not your imagination. Consumer prices are going up. And to make matters worse, Virginia is only one of 13 states to tax groceries. As governor, I will eliminate Virginia's grocery tax. Career politicians will call it radical, but to me, it's just common sense. Because saving a little extra on milk and bread and all of this, it adds up. It's time to make it a little easier to live, work, and raise a family here in Virginia.
What do you think of this spot?
I actually don't hate it. Again, Youngkin is by nature a sort of centrist moderate Republican. He went to Harvard Business School. He went to Rice. He was the CEO of Carlyle Group, which is a big private equity firm. And this represents an effort by the Youngkin campaign to present him to suburbanites in particular as a relatable dad who cares about kitchen table issues and will cut your taxes, et cetera. So it puts like a softer face on the same guy who might want to roll back abortion rights in the state. I actually don't think it's a bad policy either. At the end of the day, the Youngkin campaign was kind of searching around for an issue to grab onto, like anything, right? Like just a message. And Jim Gilmore became governor of Virginia back in the 90s by running on one thing. He had a bumper sticker and it said, no car tax. That was it. That was the whole campaign. No car tax. And it was really a good campaign and he won. It was similar to Youngkin, just like an effort to just relate to people in a time when like the economy is a little iffy and say like, I can save you a few bucks here and there. So like, I don't think it's a terrible ad. What'd you think?
Yeah, no, I think it's a good ad. I understand the strategy behind it. Inflation is a concern in every poll you see. I've seen it in Virginia polling. It's this very amorphous thing that people really care about, and there are very few specific policy responses to it, and here is one, right? You think your grocery bill's too high? Well, I'm going to cut it. Many politicians have run on eliminating the grocery tax over the years. Doug Wilder ran on it. McAuliffe actually also supports getting rid of it. The more meta strategy thing here is what you hit on, which is Youngkin. There is this battle of definition around Youngkin. Is he truly this centrist Republican who is different than Trump? And he's sort of the Republican that older Virginians may have felt comfortable voting for not too many years ago. Or is he this anti-vaxxer, anti-mask, big lie, Trump-endorsed Republican? This is a chance to show him seeming like a normal Republican doing normal things, right? If that's what they're trying to do, and I think in a vacuum, it's an effective way of doing it. The next ad we're going to watch is about crime from Glenn Youngkin.
Homicides in Virginia are at a 20-year high.
And we are stressed to the limit.
Now, extreme Democrats supporting Terry McAuliffe want to defund the police.
Then Youngkin, he'll defend us.
Youngkin has a plan to crack down on crime. That's why over 50 sheriffs from Montgomery
to Prince William County,
from Virginia Beach
to Richmond
are ready to roll with a governor who will keep Virginia safe.
I'm Glenn Youngkin, candidate for governor, and I sponsored this ad.
Now, we have been doing this show off and on for well over a year now, and basically once every 2 weeks we do a Republican crime ad. What did you think of this one?
Well, without knowing what you've said about those other ads, like other states, murders and gun violence were up in Virginia last year. The people I've talked to there in Virginia, it's like, it's not really an issue you're hearing a lot about. It's a scare tactic. This is a move to, get just sort of like white flight, ex-urban white people to vote Republican. The path to power in Virginia for Republicans for a long time was be a Republican attorney general. And Bob McDonnell did this in 2009 and then run as a kind of like friendly law and order, keep your family safe thing, wink, wink, at all the white voters in the state. It just feels like you could drop this ad in like Kansas too, and like any congressional district around the country and just change the names.
In most places where these sort of ads are running, crime is a low salience issue because of the nature of local news. It leads the news a lot, but it's not a huge part of people's life. It's certainly nothing like it was in the 90s or even, a couple of decades ago. Here, these crime ads are about race and identity, right? It is that Democrats are in the thrall of people who want to defund the police and put white people at risk of these, it's just like immigration and terrorism, all these other things. It's like one of those ads that, not very cool political consultants make. And then they add like someone adds a soundtrack and look, it's different and cool. And so it's like on a pure execution level, it's like totally fine. And I think it could really work against a generic congressional Democrat somewhere in the country. I'm not sure it can work against Terry McAuliffe. Okay, people, I'm going to take you behind the scenes for a second to help you really understand how things work at Kirky Media. Elijah Cohn, the producer of this series, is the overlord of all content here. He wields that power capriciously and cruelly. He is denying you content that I know you crave, standing in the way of new projects, blocking many, many episodes of Campaign Experts React. The only way we can possibly send a message to Elijah that we will not take it anymore is by smashing the subscribe button. And even more importantly, a more important organizing opportunity than defeating a dangerous despot like Elijah Cohn is defeating a Trumpist candidate like Glenn Youngkin in Virginia. Virginia governor's race is on Tuesday, November 2nd. If you're a Virginian, you can find everything you need to know about voting at votesaveamerica.com/Virginia. We also have opportunities to get involved if you're out of state and want to volunteer. Please get out, volunteer, and vote. The last ad we're going to watch is from the McAuliffe campaign.
No scary music, no dark pictures, just the facts. Glenn Youngkin is against requiring vaccines for teachers and healthcare workers. Even worse, he's encouraging people to not get vaccinated.
One of the things I encourage folks is if they do have an exception policy, and I encourage people to fill it out.
That's right, encouraging people to not get vaccinated.
If you don't want it, don't take it.
Glenn Youngkin is dangerous for Virginia.
I'm Terry McAuliffe, candidate for governor, and I sponsored this ad.
This ad is a classic of the genre of politicians caught on tape saying shit they shouldn't have said. And there's a long history of that. There is Mitt Romney, 47%. In Virginia, there is former Governor George Allen run for Senate, caught on tape saying macaca, a racist term that not just ended his race and handed the Senate to the Democrats, also ended his political career. What do you think about this ad, and what do you think about the efficacy of vaccine mandates as a political issue?
Where we live in California, it was a useful cudgel in the recall election. Newsom in that race did two things down the stretch. He had an enemy, a foe that came to the fore, Larry Elder, that he could accuse as Trumpy, and then he said, this guy will get rid of testing requirements, mask requirements, vaccine mandates, etc. And in liberal California, that worked. And I think in Virginia, there is support for vaccines for teachers at schools, for public agencies and government agencies. It's a little more divided when you talk about vaccine mandates for like what they're doing in New York and LA right now, to go into a bar, to go into a restaurant, to go into a gym, hair salon. That stuff's a little more divided, although it has like slight majority support. But, I think, again, if the suburbs are where this race might be decided, Terry is making a bet that like most people in the country especially parents and people who want to go back to work and live normal lives, want this stuff.
The thing that just like hangs over this is, and I think the results of Virginia will tell us some, is how much pollsters have corrected the problems from 2020, because the people who are going to be least likely to respond to surveys are going to be the unvaccinated, people with low social trust. People who are unvaccinated are by nature people with low social trust. So is polling, even this many years later, still giving us a distorted view of both either the popularity of these mandates or the backlash against them? The other element of it that I think is part of McAuliffe's strategy is, like, he is desperately trying to make Glenn Youngkin Donald Trump. He calls him Glenn Trumpkin in press releases, ads, on the stump, and which is pretty cheesy, but relatively effective, and just like, you might as well say the thing you're trying to say without any nuance, and that's it. And anti-vax, COVID truthing is like a proxy for that point. It's like, I am taking this guy who is part of the business community. He's rich. He, talks moderate. He went to Harvard, and I'm putting him over here in the Fox News, Tucker Carlson, Ron DeSantis group. The way I'm telling you of that is, look what he says about vaccines, right? So it is both things. It's on the issue, and it's also a way of essentially running a sort of form of ideological identity politics.
Yeah. There's no after Trump.
Well, Peter Hamby, thank you for joining us on Campaign Experts React, and we will be watching this race very closely in Virginia.
It's great to be here representing the Commonwealth. Thank you, Dan.